this is what I want like people to actually understand is they have a moment of choice. The spirituality, here's probably the most significant part of the embodiment of spirituality. This is what everyone bloody misses. Is I'm going to say the most important thing of what is spiritual in terms of the embodiment. Your divinity lies in the threshold, the space between a stimulation and your response. The pause is the divinity, is to choose in any given moment, right? To choose anything, to go left, to go right, to get angry, to not get angry, right? That choice is your divinity. So the capacity to say anything, do anything, is your divine responsibility. And then when you become conscious, which might be touched on later, when someone becomes conscious, you are becoming closer to spirituality. And that then means you have dominion, or you are separate from your primal impulse. My impulse says, punch this dude out. My spirit, or my awareness of this moment right now, this space between space, stimulation and response, is this capacity to pause, contemplate outcomes, apply virtue based on what I would rather experience in this world. I would rather experience, for the optimization of this body and life, positive chemistry, love, right? Joy, just because it's better for everything and everyone. So if I choose that and I want more harmony in my life, more success, then having a positive vibration in my body is optimal. So if I have any power whatsoever, I should choose anything that leads me to that experience and chemical signature than anything else, right? So the application of spirituality is to become aware of that moment, right? What's happening in my body right now as I feel frustration? Pause. Apply your divinity, which is to be self-aware. I'm aware of what's happening in my body right now, and I know I have choice. I can choose to get angry. All these years, I actually just chose to get angry. Okay, cool. That's surrender. First stage, surrender. Next, once you surrender to what is just existing, no, I'm just really angry right now, or I'm really just feeling hurt, grief, whatever it is right now is deep inside me, surrender that it exists. Then you move to acceptance. I'm going to take you through a little step-by-step thing. Acceptance is stage 2. In that acceptance, what am I accepting? That it's finished. It is spiritual to understand that yesterday actually doesn't exist anymore. Your past is held in your memory bank, right? Maybe there's some photos of it, but it actually doesn't exist anymore, right? The future doesn't exist either. That's why they talk about the eternal or the infinite now. It's just, that's all you live in, is the infinite now. And you hold memories as a fragment of the past, but it doesn't exist outside of the illusions of your mind, okay? So in that moment there, the acceptance that the past is finished, this person has left me, it's done. Okay, yep. I got angry and I really just wanted to hurt them back. Okay, the acceptance of whatever's going on in the body, in my operation, the past, is that acceptance is so crucial. You don't get to good outcomes without that acceptance part. Forget gratitude, forgiveness, all the beautiful chemistry that comes with that, the joy of life. If you're still holding on to resentment, frustration, injustice, a behavioral tally card, a scorecard of behavior. They did me more wrong, some moral scorecard of who's more righteous and who's not. That's not a good way to go. That's believing that the physical world and its morality is more primary, but it's spiritual to transcend that and accept that this is a child of the earth as well. And there is something powerful in the learning here, perspective shift. Okay, cool. That one perspective shift is to then be above this and realize that my true reality is the chemical that are running through my body. And if I go about my life calculating and judging and blaming based on behavioral scorecards, it only leads this chemistry to frustration, resentment, anger, blame, shame, guilt. I'm good, they're good. I'm bad, they're bad. What it does to the chemical signatures, you're losing. So the spiritual man or woman transcends that. They don't live on that behavioral scorecard.
How do you transcend the scorecard when it's those those experiences create such strong visceral emotions and memories and stories that are so imprinted into who you are and who you think you are. And you start living through the lens of the past, and you know, you start creating stories and narratives at a subconscious level too in your life. How do we sort of relinquish this control that the past has on us and become aware that we are being limited by the past?
Mm-hmm. I would say that it's to be aware of what was unresolved. So this is common knowledge of that, you know, I have unresolved trauma, let's say, right? I was traumatized, therefore my behaviors are like this. And then what it looks like at surface value is that this event caused these behaviors. And that's why it's easy to prescribe things. It's easy to create treatment methods around that because that caused this. So that was a Freudian argument in the psychoanalysis. The causal nature of parental conflict, let's say, creates a certain dynamic which has predictive power in your adult romantic relationships and behaviors, same with attachment theory. So we see that, but there's always these areas where it's like, oh, that didn't work out. It's not 100% accurate in terms of predictive power. That other part is the phenomenal part, right? And so you want to be in that area where you're no longer predicted by your trauma. I have transcended it. It doesn't dictate my behaviors. That is literally the examination of the stories and conclusions that you've made about yourself, about others, which formed an identity of that timeline that your ego is holding onto for dear life. And it seeks to just repeat that dynamic. So that's the karmic loop. It's the presenting past. It's stuck patterns. It's that timeline still trying to play itself out. So you want to look, okay, I have this tendency that every time I go into a relationship, I want to control their behavioral movements. I don't like it when they go out. I don't like it when they talk to the opposite sex, right? So I want to control their movements. Why do I do that? And we'll see it sometimes. We get angry. Damn it. This time I was trying to be different. I'm noticing myself still do it. Why do I do that? Of course, because I've felt the pain in the past. I didn't like that. It didn't feel good. And now my ego is making sure I don't feel that again. Go ahead and find out one of the original wounds. What is the greatest catastrophe? What is the thing that I'm most catastrophizing in that moment? Because your ego is the thing that's on the feedback loop of just behavioral patterns that seem stuck. You have to find out what's the catastrophe here, because I guarantee you it's not real. Like it doesn't exist. There's a lie in that catastrophizing. The catastrophe is, well, if I don't control their movements, they'll run away. They'll find someone better than me. They might say to you, okay, cool. All right, here's where the empathy should come in. You feel for that person because that's like a younger person. Okay, how you want to ask, like, even yourself, how far back did I start saying something like that? It could be earlier partner. It could be a parental figure where they chose someone else over me. It could be another partner. It could be another sibling, whatever it might be, or they just left and disappeared. And there is this fundamental belief because that child or that adolescent in that relationship concluded that if I don't physically see this person, there is a high risk that they leave me. Okay, then what? Well, I'm left lonely. There's the core. Lonely, isolated, that whatever feelings come with that, the sensory experience of that, the worst feelings ever. So what do? The ego has to be employed to make sure you never feel that again, right? And so it'll start giving you these behavioral tendencies to make sure the past never presents again. But what does it do? It keeps repeating the same thing, and you scratch your head wondering why. So get clear on the catastrophe and then check, is it real? Does it really apply here, or is it nothing to do with this person? Then it's courage, because a lot of people can get to that point as well. Oh yeah, I've done the healing. I went to my psych. I know why I'm doing it. I'm just scared. But the courage to act now on what you know to be true, that's what's missing. So you can find out a flaw in your behavior, your belief system. Oh, I just have this fear that they're going to leave me. Your partner's telling you, I'm not leaving you. I'm just my friends. Just let me go hang out with my friends. But there's this part of you that's like, ugh, and don't let them go. What ifs? It takes courage, because you have all the evidence in this moment that they're not leaving you, but they might. You always run the risk, and that's the risk of love. You don't get to control that person's behavior because it doesn't lead to love. And then you have to have the courage to just act out what you know to be ethically true in the pursuit of love, which is freedom.
What I've noticed in my life to get an insight into my subconscious mind and the patterns I've fallen into is actually, you taught me this in the last episode, was about my reactivity. And that gives you an insight into how much your subconscious mind is filtering your experience. I spoke with Mitchell Vickridge the other day, and we spoke a lot about how like the outside world is very neutral, but it's our mind which creates this story, which creates the emotional charge. And if you can identify areas in your life, things that so-called trigger you and create this emotionality or felt experience, that can give you an insight into what programs are being run inside. Because ever since you told me that, I've been noticing things I instantly become reactive to, where my ego gets in play, which was like a first step. Because like, until you become, one of my favorite quotes is like, until you make the conscious, it'll direct your life and you'll call it fate. Carl Jung. I feel like that has spoken true to my life. Like, until I become aware of these programs or these patterns that are happening in my life, you know, I create this story of these constraints and limitations, but they're only just belief systems that I've fallen into. But identifying patterns was a powerful first step.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm glad you said that, man. Look, and that's music to my ears, man, when I hear a young guy like yourself just becoming more aware. So the first stage into, say, spirituality or consciousness, becoming a conscious being, or Carl Jung's talking about becoming it's individuation process, it's called as well. But what that does is it gives you, the first step is awareness. I become aware that, firstly, I'm creating this world and my experiences more than I thought. The other alternative that I thought before, which I thought was fate, is these people are doing this to me. The world is doing this to me. So it's the illusion that there is no responsibility. And what that does, why it's not a good idea, I mean, it's easier to say this person and that thing over there, or that behavior, or that memory made me this way. What that does is obfuscate all responsibility. And in that obfuscation of responsibility, you have no power. So while it might be easy for the egoic mind to uphold an identity of facade, it doesn't give you any power. And that's why we say the conscious mind or the conscious man is ideal over an unconscious body, because the unconscious man is constantly surprised by his outcomes. His life is always surprising him, and he scratches his head, why does this keep happening? Why do these relationship patterns keep happening? It's like I'm cursed. It's like the universe is against me, right? So it's naivety. Unconsciousness is naive to all the things in my subconscious that is actually perpetuating these dynamics in my life, and it's